Coming up on Tech News Today, Google's next Nexus. Facebook's got a secret photo app, or is it? And Duke Nukem's PR firm exposes the dirty underbelly of tech journalism. All that, and you get virtually pregnant. Next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, June 15th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Gazelle, the easy way to sell or recycle the used gadgets lying around your home or office. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it! For a 5% bonus payment for your used gadgets, go to Gazelle.com, bonus code TWiT. And by MailRoute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now absolutely free at MailRoute.info. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Maya Zakhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And Facebook's got a secret photo app.
Yes.
They don't have a phone app.
But it's a photo
I
app.
just broke a news story. No.
According to analysts at Tech News
Facebook
Today.
has a secret photo app that will be on phones.
Yeah. iOS apparently at first, although it's built in HTML5, so I guess that means it could be ported anywhere.
Easily ported to other platforms. TechCrunch's MG Siegler reports Facebook will soon release the app, possibly called Hovertown or With People.
Let's really, really hope that those
Let's hope
both
that
stay
that
internal.
information is bogus.
Hovertown? That sounds like
just be an
something
internal.
Ron Burgundy would say.
It could just be an internal code.
Forget it, Ayaz. It's Hovertown.
Summertown.
It's the worst.
They're describing it, MG is describing it as a combination of Instagram, Color, Path, and Path's new side project, With.
Hence with people.
So
if that's
for
the
anybody
case, then
who's
it needs like a really short name.
Yeah.
Like Stuff.
Yeah.
Pics.
Pics.
Them. Us. How about us? Us is good.
Yeah.
Hasn't anyone
Spelled
made
with
an app
2
called us?
S's.
Yes. Just,
also spelled with 2
to
S's.
keep them honest.
Yes.
If anyone's not familiar with Instagram, Color, Path, and With, and how they differ from each other, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a combination of sharing photos within within obviously Facebook's social network, but being able to share photos with friends, being able to share photos, the colors, unique quality, and besides the fact that they got a bunch of money and people have given them a lot of grief, is that you're sharing photos that you're closely geographically in relation to. I really mangled the
So
way
you
that
you
works.
take a picture, you can tag it with people by tapping faces.
Yeah.
You can tag it location-wise. You can tag it
Right.
event-wise, according to these screenshots. These are all based on leaked screenshots that have been leaked to TechCrunch. And so then it goes into Facebook. It's integrated with Facebook. It may end up being integrated into the Facebook app, but it would be put out initially, at least according to the rumor, as an independent app that would crush Instagram.
Well,
do you think it would? Do you think it would?
I don't think it would.
Because Facebook Locations was supposed to crush Foursquare, and that didn't happen.
Exactly. I think that there are certain, I don't want to say geeks will just use the first app that came out and Instagram's been a success so people won't move over. I mean, I will use the best app experience that there is. I also didn't leave Foursquare just because Facebook Places came out. In fact, I don't use Facebook Places ever. Not because it's not a good service, just I don't feel like I have enough of a community also using it, so I kind of go where the community is.
However, with Places, you were doing something new with Facebook that you hadn't used it for before. You were
Right.
checking into places. You weren't used to using Facebook for that, so you might not think of doing it. Facebook, I mean, everybody uploads photos to Facebook, so it's already kind of got a high user base in that particular function.
And the other thing
right?
is, if Facebook actually makes this a separate app, instead of it being a feature of the Facebook app that gets an update, you don't know where it is, it could be on a second page or third page or something. But if they actually come out with a separate app with whatever name it's going to be called, I mean, I could see people just saying, oh, look, I got Facebook. I can get this Facebook photo app as well, because they're very familiar with it. And the app looks pretty cool. I mean, the fact that it would have all these it'd be like Path. So you have a social network. Yeah, well, of course you have a social network. It's Facebook. You don't have to get new friends. You don't have to find out, okay, who are, like, maybe you can share it to a group instead of it being, okay, now I got to learn something brand new. You already have everything tied to Facebook.
What's nice about it is that because obviously Facebook has the social network down pat.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can, yes, when you start to use groups or organize people into lists and so on, it makes it something, a photo sharing app, really, really powerful. Because, of course, you're not going to want to blast out, if you're a private person, a photo to all of your 3,500 friends necessarily. I mean, some people want to do that, and that's why something like sharing a photo on Twitter works for some people, and that's why other people like Path, because they maybe just had a baby, and it's not about sharing with the most amount of people possible. And it keeps you from having to keep joining all these social networks and getting followers and friends, and it's time consuming.
Doug Getz in the chat room points out, if you look at the screenshots, it looks like it's integrated into the iOS camera. So he's saying this is not an app. This is something Facebook was supposed to integrate into iOS 5, and it didn't happen.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Apple was working with Facebook at some point back when they were doing Ping. They were trying to get Facebook integration into Ping, and that never worked out.
I don't know if that's absolutely true, though, because Instagram, when you bring up the camera, has the same options.
Oh, yeah, you can still hook to the same APIs.
You can still hook the camera into the API, so I don't know if that's the be-all, end-all. But there may be more to this leak. I mean, when leaks like this happen, there's usually a little bit more that comes out later.
Projects can start off one thing and turn into another. Don't forget, the PlayStation started off as like a Nintendo project, so this could be an old remnant that they're reusing to create another application.
Google Nexus 4G is another rumor that's kicking around. Boy Genius Report. All things Boy Genius Report was about what I said. Boy Genius Report has it on good authority that someone has told them that Nexus 4G would come out around Thanksgiving from Google with a 720p display, LTE, and running ice cream sandwich. We don't know whether these are specs for sort of a flagship for ice cream sandwich, a la a Motorola Droid, or the next in the Nexus line. It might end up being called something else. But it sounds like a pretty luscious phone, running TI OMAP 4460 or Qualcomm crate-based Snapdragon at the core, a gigabyte of RAM, set true 720p screen, so presumably 1280 by 720. Only a 5-megapixel sensor, but low light performance and 1080p capture. Made by either HTC or LG is what This Is My Next is guessing. What do you guys think? Are you excited about this?
Well,
Android people?
I hope it's not called the Nexus 4G, because isn't there already a Nexus S 4G?
Yeah, that would be
Talk
a little
about confusing.
Yeah,
you drop
totally.
an S and that's the newer phone? Kind of weird. It might not be called that, but otherwise it sounds lovely.
I mean, Google's Nexus brand stuff, that's always been like the baseline kind of phone at the time. So if the Nexus has it, every other phone should have it. So to say this is possibly the new standard for ice cream sandwich devices, that they all have 720p screens, dual GPUs, not GPUs, dual CPUs, excuse me, maybe even a quad-core processor at times, with the Kal-El was another rumored one. What I'm kind of confused about is the idea that they would drop the 4 physical buttons on this, because the reports are saying that the Nexus 4G doesn't have the 4 buttons that are on all Android devices.
Well,
they keep things standardized.
Yeah, I mean, that's the move to ice cream sandwich, which is essentially to, from what I understand, get rid of those physical buttons and have it all be virtual, similar to what you see on Honeycomb tablets, where there are no physical buttons necessarily that operate the UI. It's just all on screen.
Will that irritate current Android users? I mean, the fact that they've grown up with this is the interface. This is how it looks. I mean, this is the standardized thing. The fact that they just dump these buttons for software buttons seems a little strange.
Well, I think it really depends on how well they implement that into the OS. I'm not opposed to it at all. My experience on Honeycomb, which is very similar, like I said, to what I imagine ice cream sandwich will be, I haven't encountered any hiccups as a result
Having turned
of that.
on gestures on my iPad, I can say I would never really want to go back. Buttons break, they get sticky, and having a good quality gesture-based system works fantastic. Now, the opposite of that is software breaks sometimes, it crashes, and then that might cause a problem if you don't have a button to make a hard reset or something.
And I mean, with all the different manufacturers making Android phones right now, those buttons come in all different configurations and everything, so it even more kind of complicates and confuses the user. You know, why is the back button over here instead of over there? It's minor, but it's still kind of an annoyance.
It defragments Android.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's part of the point of ice cream sandwich.
Pandora had their IPO today. Stock opened at $20. It had been set yesterday at $16, so got off to a quick start. Share got as high as $25 a share within the first hour of trading this morning. However, it then slumped the rest of the day. It closed at $17.42. Now, it's well behind LinkedIn, which had its IPO previously at around, and is right now stable at about $75. But Pandora probably made about $235 million off this IPO, and it's another hot IPO that is outperforming what the price was initially set at from the tech sector. Bubble anyone?
Well, it's also, I mean,
Would you care for a bubble?
It's a pretty good story. I mean, if you followed Pandora for a number of years, I'm a Pandora user, so I mean, I was rooting for them, but they had almost gone under some years ago because they were having to pay these crazy royalty fees. They were in negotiations with the labels for years to try to get that down to a reasonable rate.
The radio royalty folks who were pushing them on this, and
Yes.
they wouldn't budge on the royalty rate. And Pandora's Westergren kind of played some brinksmanship and said, if you don't change the rates, we're going to go out of business because we cannot afford the rates that you want to charge it. The royalty commission went after internet radio first. They're now after terrestrial radio, and that's a dogfight that's happening right now.
Yeah, what's interesting is that a lot of folks are looking at this and saying exactly like you were saying, Tom, is this a bubble? I mean, Pandora loses money. They've made about twice as much money as they have this time, within the quarter of this time last year, but they're also losing twice as much money, and that's just because it's sort of like with the more success you have, the more royalties you're going to have to pay. Although I know that Pandora is trying really hard to get into integrated into car stereos, for example. They're trying to get into markets that they haven't been able to reach previously. Started out as open up a tab on your desktop and play music at work. Now they're 50% of their users are hitting Pandora through mobile devices.
I don't know if it's a bubble just yet because the price didn't fluctuate that crazily. It went from like 16 to 25 and then back to 17. So it's really not that huge.
It's the fact that it's not the fluctuation, it's the price itself. For a company that lost $6.8 million on sales of $51 million this past 9 months compared to a $3 million loss the 9 months in the same period previously. This is a company that's losing more and more money, and you go in and say 16, I'll pay 20, I'll pay 26.
Yeah, but even Amazon.com, when it went public for the first time, I mean, they were losing money for years, and they could only get funding by doing an IPO, and that's how they succeeded. For something like Pandora, like Sarah was saying, they're not just a tab on your browser. They're in a lot of places to the point that people ask for Pandora, or Pandora is built into their TVs and their car stereo. So they have like a dominant brand. So they have the ability to kind of rebound.
I think that's a bunch of fluff. I think you're overhyping the situation, and I think the fact that they continue to lose more and more money means that this is a waste, and we are definitely in a bubble, and this thing's about to pop, folks. This is the sign.
But Tom, how about the fact that they're also making more and more money? They can keep losing more money as long as they keep making more money.
Doesn't matter how much more money you make if you keep losing money.
But
if you're losing money at a greater rate, it's like why you're just throwing money in a hole.
But they doubled their revenues also. They're losing twice as much.
If I were making profit, that'd be good.
And also, if they have enough shareholders, I mean, they have a little bit more leverage than just going in and saying, oh, yeah, we're a small company. We can negotiate with you. It's like, we have a ton of money now, okay? We have equity. We have some people that we care about.
I think you guys are fooling yourselves.
Sure. There we go.
Let's take a break. And
I think you just hate fun.
You hate fun
do
and
hate
Pandora.
fun.
And music.
I can't stand music. But you know what I do like? Making money. Off my
Unlike
old
Pandora.
gadgets.
Oh, yeah.
From our sponsor, Gazelle, at Gazelle.com.
Stuff with buttons on it, for example.
You got stuff with buttons, and you're like, you know what? I can't wait to buy the new buttonless gadgets that are coming out. I got to get rid of these button gadgets.
Yeah.
Sell them on Gazelle. They allow you to sell MP3 players, laptops, gaming consoles, and we know you've got a bunch of these gadgets, and you're always wanting to buy another one, or at least you're always thinking about buying another one. This is the way to fund that habit. Go on to Gazelle.com, type in your gadget, tell them what condition it's in. They'll give you a price, and then you send them the gadget, they send you the money. They could send it to you by PayPal, by Amazon. They've got 20 product categories, over 200,000 unique items. And even if you're sitting there thinking, I don't think my Motorola Razr Original Edition is going to get me any money. You got two options. You could hold on to it for another 30 years and it might qualify as an antique, or you could just send it to Gazelle and have them recycle it for you. They'll do that as well, and they make sure it doesn't end up in a landfill. So it's you don't want to throw that thing in the trash and have it end up in a landfill. Send it to Gazelle as well. And if you tell them you heard about it here on TWiT, you get a 5% bonus, so you make even more money because you're listening to Tech News Today. That's Gazelle.com. Use the bonus code TWiT. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it. I do it all the time. You wonder how I pay for all the crazy gadgets that I'm buying. The part of it is several mortgages, but another part of it is selling gadgets on Gazelle.
Gazelle's great. Got to try them out.
Our next story shows the dirty underbelly of the product review industry in tech journalism. The Redner Group is the PR company that was representing Duke Nukem for 2K Games. The Redner Group's Twitter post said this morning, #always bet on Duke. Too many went too far with their reviews. We are reviewing who gets games next time and who doesn't based on today's venom. And then went on to say bad scores are fine. Venom-filled reviews, that's completely different. Essentially threatening game review companies saying, you trashed our game. You said you didn't like our game. We're not going to send you any more review copies anymore. So there.
But that happens a lot, but nobody says it publicly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've worked in the business at all, you see, hey, look, you can't review this product super honestly in fears that this company will never send you another product unless you want to pay for every single thing you get as a reviewer. A lot of reviewers are tempted to be a little bit more forgiving in their reviews than they would be.
There is absolutely a chilling effect. Usually the way this plays out, nobody says it in public, right? Because that just ruins it. It makes them look stupid, makes them look bad. It gives the journalists a chance to point to something. What you do is you say, when you're a negative review and you're a manufacturing company, you say, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to be a little delayed getting that next product to you. Has nothing to do with the reviews. We're just not, Apple famously never sent review units to CNET early. Never. When I was working there. And there was no reason why. There was nothing you could point at. But there's a chilling effect. And if you look around PC Mag, CNET, all of these different product review places, you'll notice that the ratings tend to hover around the same rating. Now, part of that's just human nature. We tend to kind of hover around the same ratings. But there is also a chilling effect. People are afraid to give really bad reviews to products, and that's true in the gaming industry as well. People are afraid. They don't want to. When you start to trash a product, then not only the vendor who sends you a product, but also the advertisers come in and put pressure saying, look, does it really need to be a 3 out of 10? Couldn't it be a 5 out of 10?
This happens beyond games, beyond products. I mean, this is the sometimes precarious relationship that reviewers or journalists or anything in between and the folks on the PR side have with one another, because you want to be honest, you want to be ethical, but you depend on each other in order to keep the ecosystem around. It's just not very often that a PR person goes on a rant on Twitter and says, we're going to withhold games from some of you because you took it too far.
Well, he didn't play the game very well, and he has apologized to Ben Kuchera from ours. Ben published part of the apology on his story. He also he removed his original post and posted on Twitter, I have to apologize to the community. I acted out of pure emotion. I will be sending each of you a private apology. And he's been fired by 2K Games. Redner Group is no longer representing products for 2K Games.
So it'll be a long time before they send out another 2K game then, right? Because they got fired. They're done with that.
Who, Redner Group?
Yeah, they're not sending that.
Yeah, they won't be sending anybody anything to 2K Games.
That's a really dumb move that they got fired, but they've been apologizing like crazy.
Well, 2K Games hires another PR company, so they don't care.
I'm just saying that Redner won't be the ones that anybody has to deal with anymore. So the question is, will any other reviewer be more honest right now about this? Because the next PR firm can't say anything close to this or can't act like this.
But if they don't say anything and they still don't change their behavior, then nobody wins. I mean, it's the whole thing where
what's interesting
reviewers
about
have
this,
to be able to be honest without...
I think Redner Group should have been applauded for being honest, for actually saying something. What this is putting the silence back in place and saying, if you ever admit you're doing this, we will come down on you, and we will come down on you hard. I mean, we know every vendor does this to a certain extent. Some are worse than others. And some are very good, but every vendor applies this pressure a little bit, and Redner Group got punished for admitting it, essentially. So I don't think that this actually makes the situation worse.
If your PR team says horrible things in public, maybe you don't want to keep them as your PR team? Simple idea.
What's also interesting is that this is Duke Nukem Forever we're talking about, which got really terrible reviews.
Which is apparently a really terrible game.
And this is the PR company representing them saying, you're being too hard on this game. This is not that bad of a game.
Yeah.
You're going overboard. You couldn't possibly really think that it was that bad. You're just being mean and you're full of venom. So it's like, I mean, there are just a bunch of opinions here.
Meanwhile, the American public doesn't care because they're all too busy watching television. The Diffusion Group released a study that says the number of Netflix streamers considering downgrading their pay TV service doubled year over year from 16 to 32%. So if you're a Netflix subscriber, you're much more likely to consider at least downgrading your pay TV service. And this goes against what the cable companies have been saying, which is nobody's considering cutting. They're just adding Netflix. They're not going to cut the cord. 61% of moderate to heavy Netflix streamers cite online video usage as the top reason for considering downgrading or eliminating their pay TV service, while just 24% point to economic issues as their top reason, which is what the cable companies are saying. The only reason we're losing any subscribers is because of the economy. And the other interesting thing here is they're saying we are considering downgrading. So we're going to keep our cable service, but we're not going to pay for the premium package. We're not going to pay for the extra tier because we have Netflix. So Netflix may not kill cable television subscribers. It may just make them less valuable. They'll just spend less money.
I mean, I think one of the things that gets lost about Netflix is, although they have all the streaming services, you can always access it on your TV. I mean, they still have DVDs and Blu-ray. So, like, if there's a weird window where you can't watch something on HBO or Showtime, you might be able to get it. You know, maybe some deals run through Netflix that are slightly different than run through the cable companies. So you have access to a much larger library. So just because people are leaving or they're switching to a Netflix kind of plan doesn't necessarily mean they're not using DVDs and that kind of stuff to get the same content.
Now, whether we actually have to worry about people turning off television and watching the web, Nielsen also has some numbers out saying the average American spends 159 hours a month watching television. That's just over 5 hours a day watching television.
Are those people who just like sleep with the TV on 5 hours a day?
And then they watch 4.5 hours a month on the web.
What if they're doing
159 hours a month versus 4.5 hours a month.
What if it's at the same time? That's the other thing. Like, are you really watching TV for 156 hours, or is it on?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I know that, like, okay, I'm watching something on YouTube, my wife's watching something on TV. So, like, that could be the case a lot.
It's actually very rare that I don't have either an iPad or my laptop and just be casually watching TV at the same time.
Americans between the ages of 18 and 24 spend the most time watching TV shows on the web. So young people are more in the habit of this, nearly 8 hours of total viewership each month. And if you pay attention, All Things D pointed this out, the more web video you watch, the less time you spend on traditional TV. So even though the preponderance is in favor of TV, as web usage rises, TV usage goes down. And web usage is rising very fast. In fact, in mobile, it's rising crazy fast. Mobile device video usage rose 41% from 2010 to 2011.
Well, that doesn't really surprise me. Are you ever really watching cable TV as you're out and about, streaming on your phone? No, but you might watch web video. I mean, it's just a lot easier to consume that way.
And the TV industry's not worried. They're saying, look, we love Netflix. It makes the internet services we provide more valuable. But Netflix isn't going to steal away our viewers because we have sports. That's pretty much what they said at the NCTEA. Robert Marcus, COO of Time Warner Cable, and Michael Wilner, CEO of Insight Communications, said that without live programming in sports, Netflix and other providers like them will never be able to compete head-to-head. I don't think Netflix wants to compete head-to-head with them.
Yeah, I mean, Reed Hastings, the CEO, has always said that we're a complement to cable. We're not really competing with them, even though they've done things like get shows and saved shows on Netflix, and they've financed some. It's interesting. I mean, they're just fighting for hours, right? If the TV companies or the TV networks are still producing content, and they're making DVDs or they're making these things accessible online, they still get to win at the end. It doesn't really matter how the content is being consumed. As long as it's the same content, these TV networks win fine. I mean, just the same.
Well, but you brought this up in prep, and I think this is an important point. There's MLB.TV. There's NBA. There's an NBA
UFC,
TV. There's NHL. There's UFC.
No, not NFL.
Not yet.
NFL.
Yeah. I know.
But
you figure it's just a matter of
the
time.
mindset here is it's us against Netflix, and what they're not realizing is, gathering just beyond the hillside that they can't see in this battlefield are all of these providers who make the content, who are creating their own streaming. And if MLB wants to, they can just change the deals as they come up for renewal so that MLB controls all the streaming. They have slowly taken more and more control of their video to the point where eventually they could just say, you know what, we don't need cable companies anymore. I mean, I think that's a ways off, but you need to pay attention to the fact that the internet is the way to deliver video, and I think they're not too worried about that because they have internet service providers because they're monopolies.
And from a completely economic standpoint, people who cancel their cable, save some money, have a Netflix account. I mean, that's kind of what's going on in my household right now. On Sunday, it was Game 6 of NBA Finals, and we were like, well, whose house should we go to? And that's what we did. And we watched the game, but we couldn't watch it at home. So it's like people can find ways around this. You can still watch the game. I bet I was able to do that
antenna
without buying this bloated cable package.
Although Stanley Cup and NBA not always available over the air. Even MLB playoffs not always available over the air. World Series is, but yeah, it's just going to get more complicated before it finally all moves to the internet.
I mean, Sports Vote has commanded a lot of money from networks, so that's a big sticking point, and I can see why networks keep saying, as long as we have sports, we're fine, because they pay a ton of money for that. I mean, the NFL is really famous for pretty much getting whatever it wants from either CBS or Fox or NBC or ABC or ESPN. Like, I mean, they call the shots on that stuff.
Finally, LulzSec is back in the news for lots of things. They opened a hack request line. So if you and an IRC channel where they were asking people to give them requests. When you call the line, you get a message from a purported Frenchman. We called it earlier. This is what they say.
Bonjour. You have reached the voicemail box of Pierre Dubois and Francois Deluxe. We are not available right now as we are busy raping your internet. Leave a message and we will get back to you whenever we feel like.
I wish we had Patrick Beja on the show today to evaluate
with the accent?
quality of that French accent.
When you called the number a few times in our office upstairs.
Well, I called it
before the
once, but you
show.
heard me playing the recording.
Right. And I was like, Patrick Beja, that's a really weird message. I actually thought it was him, and then I realized.
I thought it was the Ask a Ninja guy.
I've been conned by LulzSec. Yeah, it does
It sounds like the
Ask
Ask a Ninja guy just got an extra job. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are calling in to say hack LulzSec. Let's see what happens there. Lulzsecurity.com.
See if they can get them in a recursive loop.
Yeah, they'll be like, we don't know what to do now.
I don't think they'll fall for that. In fact, what they have done is harness the power of that phone line to use it to forward calls and redirect them to, among others, the FBI office in Detroit, Blizzard customer support, and online retail magnets.com, effectively DDoSing the phone lines of those companies. That was part of the plan, I guess, in putting up that. They also today took down CIA.gov, according to their Twitter account, for the lulz.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That
Messing
sounds
with
funny.
The CIA.
The CIA. I'm sure nobody's going to get angry about that.
Yeah, they are obviously fearless in what they're
crazy.
doing here. And they only go after websites. Fearless and crazy are often two sides of the same coin.
CIA.gov not up as of right this second. So good work. I'm lulzing.
All right, I did say finally on LulzSec, but we skipped a story in the lineup here. A bipartisan bill is being proposed to make it illegal for law enforcement to get your location without either your permission or a warrant. Representative Jason Chaffetz of Utah announced the bill, being sponsored by Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. Data obtained from devices like tablets, smartphones, and GPS trackers would be held to the same standard as a wiretap request. And in fact, companies like ISPs would need consent in order to share a user's geolocation data with anyone else. The bill would also criminalize those who stalk other people by inserting stealth apps on their phones or computers.
I mean, the court cases have been kind of all over the place trying to interpret, okay, what exactly is something you can search on a person, and this kind of federal law would kind of clarify all of that. So it's kind of it's a step in the right direction.
On the other hand, Senator Al Franken of Minnesota and Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut co-sponsored a bill which is called the Location Privacy Protection Act of 2011. Sounds similar. In fact, when I first put the story in,
I thought it was the same story.
I was like, is that the same story as GPS? No. This bill would close loopholes in current federal law to ensure that consumers know what location information is being collected and allow them to decide if they want to share it. The bill introduced Wednesday would require device makers and app developers to receive express consent from mobile users before accidentally having a bit of a database of Skyhook-type data that would allow you to find your location faster.
Doesn't this mean that
this all goes back to the iPhone?
There's going to be some other TOS, a terms of service that nobody pays attention to and just hits agree? Isn't that's effectively what this law is going to create?
It's what iPhone already does.
They want express consent. I'm just saying, how's it actually going to be implemented on the phone?
Because you would have to go out of your way to opt in.
Every time the iOS captures location data, it asks you for it. I don't understand why we need this particular law. What this made me think is like, wow, if we could protect our download records this well, I'd feel much more comfortable about ISPs. But instead, we go the other way and we say, you don't even need a warrant, and ISPs can give away whatever information they want if someone is even whiffs of copyright infringement. Our priorities are so out of whack. It's just ridiculous. Let's move on to the news fuse. Yesterday, HTC said that the HTC Desire owners would have to choose between the Sense UI or Gingerbread because it was impossible for HTC to do both. Well, good news. HTC has done the impossible.
Yay!
On its Facebook page, HTC said it is indeed bringing Gingerbread to the Desire. The lesson, if you like something HTC does, like that whole locked bootloader thing, I mean, if you dislike it, simply let your rage be known because HTC might change their mind about what's possible and what's
Strength in numbers, wisdom of the crowd, and all that stuff. Google's been eyeing Nortel's patents from across the room for a while now and winking because it got the Google goggles on. All Google needed was the go-ahead from the Department of Justice. Well, after review, the DOJ says there are no antitrust concerns with Google buying the patents. Go forth. Google has bid $900 million for the patents, but there are still other suitors for those patents, like Apple and RIM, to name two.
It's one crowded party.
Yeah.
One of the Bitcoin's strengths is, as an online currency is that it's like cold hard cash. It's hard to counterfeit and also difficult to trace. Unfortunately, just like cash, Bitcoins can also be stolen. One user has lost 25,000 Bitcoins because someone gained access to his computer. At current market rates, that's about $500,000 that was stolen.
Wow.
This guy invested heavily.
I thought
That was
Bitcoin
fitting.
was supposed to be foolproof.
It is foolproof, but if someone
you're a
breaks into
fool.
your computer and steals your wallet.dat, and then you're pwned. The iOS 5 SDK is a treasure trove of information. This time someone has found some high-resolution images at 1536 by 2048 lurking in the SDK. Why would such an image be in the SDK? The prevailing theory is that it points to the next version of the iPad with a Retina display. Taiwanese newspaper reports bear this out as well. Considering the iPad's display is the same as the first version from 2010, it's probably a pretty safe bet that the next iPad would get a bump in resolution.
Yes, I certainly hope so. Better camera, too. Crytek is developing a new Time Splitters game for the next versions of the Xbox and the PlayStation, everybody. At least that's what a source told Videogamer.com. On top of that, that source says that the next Xbox will be announced within the next 12 months, possibly at E3 2012. Doesn't mean Microsoft will release the device next year, but it might show off a prototype. We can hope.
Now, while Sony and Microsoft want you to use their consoles as the one box you use for everything, Nintendo doesn't agree. Nintendo President Satoru Iwata said the Wii U will not have DVD or Blu-ray playback capabilities and wants the game console to focus on games. That's a little strange.
What?
Oddly, the original Wii, if you hacked it, could play DVDs, so who knows what's really in the Wii U anyway.
Yeah, I bet it could do it. There are a lot of hacker stories floating around these days, so how can it be stopped? Well, justice ministers from the EU have an idea. Make the creation of those nefarious hacking tools a criminal offense. Get the logic? If the tools are illegal, people won't make them, and all the hacking will stop.
Exactly.
Beyond the
Totally.
obvious problems that these tools are used for other things besides hacking, the justice ministers haven't given a full definition of what these tools would even be, and that could make a lot of legitimate software illegal. So just if you're in the European Union, write your justice minister and tell them bad idea.
Have you heard of Right Haven? If
Yes.
you haven't, well, Tom, you've heard of them.
So you can just sit
But
back.
some people may not have.
You asked.
It's a company that goes around ringing those bells and firing. No, they actually go suing blogs and other sites for infringement on behalf of the copyright holders. U.S. District Judge Roger Hunt is none too thrilled with Right Haven, saying the company has no standing to sue since Right Haven is not the copyright holder. Judge Hunt called Right Haven disingenuous, if not outright deceitful, and also wrote that Right Haven should explain to the court why the court should not sanction it.
Yeah.
We're going to sanction you, Right Haven.
Right Haven.
Get off that horse.
You're done. Time for the randomizer.
Randomizer.
None of us in this room have ever been pregnant.
Oh,
Yes.
wait a minute. No, yeah, you're right.
That's
Sorry.
I mean,
wasn't-
there's
I thought
that
you said-
whole, like, 21st century, like, oh, the guy is also pregnant because he's part of the family. But, I mean, literally, Jason has
Yeah.
not carried a fetus inside of his stomach.
That is true.
Or a uterus because he doesn't have one.
Contrary to popular opinion.
I
on
choose
Wikipedia.
I choose not to use my utilities.
Well, we can all solve that thanks to a new invention.
I am uncomfortable.
From the Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, simulates weight, temperature, movement, and heartbeat of a fetus so anyone can feel what it's like to be pregnant. Now, my first fear was that it would also go right into labor, but it doesn't. It's just being pregnant.
Yeah, there's no delivery suit just yet. This thing's supposed to have like water in there, so it's supposed to simulate kicks. Also supposed to have the capacitive touch response, so if you touch the belly, the fetus would respond. The weird thing is they keep showing videos of women jumping up and down, which I don't think you're supposed to do if you have a fetus inside of
It's
you.
probably not the best thing.
Watch. It's just
I
kind
don't
of
think
odd
it
because
hurts,
if you
but-
keep watching the video, if you hit the kid, you'll see it says bad right there.
Oh,
well,
don't
the kid,
do that.
The kid
Well, clearly-
hits back. The kid's fine.
He'll kick you back.
He's a strong kid.
That's exactly what
He can
happens.
stick up for himself.
So if you wanted to know,
Tough love, kid.
Japan has kissing
I'm
machines.
glad that the labor pains are not part of this.
Yeah,
maybe that's the next.
Hopefully there's no
version.
sequel.
That's-
This is what it feels like.
That's pregnancy station 2.
Oh wow.
Let's
That was random, all right.
Take a quick break. Thank our sponsor, MailRoute. If you don't want any spam anymore, sign up for MailRoute. Do I need to tell you more? It's a secure hosted service, filters out virus and spam. You edit your MX record. So if you or someone who operates your mail for you can do that, you're in. Have the email sent to MailRoute. They take out all the bad stuff. Almost, I would call it 0% false positive because I've never found one in the year that I've been using it. And then they send the good stuff on to you. It can revive email addresses that maybe you thought were dead on domains you've had for a long time. So check them out at mailroute.info. $30 per user per year for single users. Mailroute.info. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Time now for the calendar.
The BlackBerry Playbook has hit the UK one day ahead of schedule. The retailer Phones for You at least has it in 2 London-based brick-and-mortar stores. Tottenham Court Road, probably saying that wrong. Tottenham Court Road and
Tottenham
Oxford
Court
Street.
Road? Yeah, I think that's right.
The HTC Sensation 4G is now available at T-Mobile. It's $150 if you order online. The Samsung Droid Charge, the HTC Thunderbolt, and the LG Revolution users can rejoice.
You have nothing to lose but your chains.
Verizon has extended the offer to let you use your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot for free until July 6th.
You have nothing to lose but your chains until July 6th.
Exactly. So live it up. AOL's Investor Day takes place tomorrow, June 16th, so you can expect a lot of talk about execution and strategy and Huffington and brand and CDs and mail,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like I was there.
Yeah, I know. I pretty
forgot
much just
synergy.
summarized it. I have ESP,
And
so yeah, that too. I actually don't have ESPN.
that's not anymore.
That's true.
Not anymore.
You have ESPN 3.
I lost it. And get your Windows 8 early autumn 2012, at least according to Microsoft Corp VP Daniel Lewin. That's Daniel with a apostrophe L. Daniel.
Well,
Good old
if
Daniel
Steve
11.
Ballmer couldn't speak for Microsoft, I don't know if this guy does either. That made
But that makes sense if developers. If it means developers are going to get Windows 8, or if there's a Windows 8 beta. I don't think Windows 8 shipping autumn.
We'll see the press guys
But
say.
maybe. It is a year away, over a year away, so it could be.
We got an email from Tom Schmidt in New Hope, Minnesota. That's a great sounding town. On TNT 263, a gentleman, not Tom or Jason, that also rules you out, and said iPhone does not have Google goggles. This is not true. It is a component of the Google app. So that gentleman was me.
Are you saying Sarah is not a gentleman?
Jesus.
How dare you, sir? How dare
Put down those false double monocles.
So
Those hand monocles.
really, I didn't think it was that big a deal
A
that
lot of
we
you guys
forgot
said
that
that.
Google Goggles is available in the
a
iOS
lot of
app.
people,
But,
It's there.
But we had a lot of people.
That's good because I have an iPod Touch, so I'm glad that it's there. I didn't know it was there.
I didn't either.
Finally, Daniel wrote in and said, "Hi guys, with the new studio almost complete, I assume the TWiT bricks are almost gone, and I don't have $128 for a brick, and won't have that kind of money laying around until I'm in my new apartment in August. But I was wondering if I could get a Post-it for $5. Maybe my name in a Sharpie under a desk for like $10.
A Sharpie under a
Well, he's
desk.
asking
Don't
for
pay
Sharpie
$10 for
Wait, hang on a
that.
second. He wants a
there you
3M
go.
Post-it, or is that a sticky? Because, I mean, Post-its are expensive.
Here's
And Sharpie brand Sharpies.
Well, we are rich people. That's why we have Post-its on hand.
Oh, okay, let's see. We got
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a Sharpie.
You're welcome.
Daniel. That because I don't have your $5. But ballpoint Post-it.
right
There
there.
you go.
There you go.
Right on.
On our white shot.
Right on.
That's your name.
Here.
There you are.
I'll put it here.
Yeah,
you
just
go.
do for the
Now you
team.
can see it. So you can actually
Can we
see
get a
that
one shot of that?
we
That's That should be
That's Sarah.
more than
Sarah,
free.
That's me.
Of
course, you can't see it.
If it was
in
in
our lighting,
Sharpie, you'd see
but-
it. But
Well,
it's
you know,
there.
if you had used a Sharpie, Tom, you wouldn't have ruined Daniel's life.
If
just
he'd given
now.
me $5, I would have used a Sharpie.
All right.
All right. So bricks.twit.tv, if you would like to buy an actual brick. I don't think they're selling Post-its up there yet, but we'll let you know. Also, received 40 votes on our Reddit subreddit today at technewstoday.reddit.com for the following brick promotion. I can't. I have to look to see who submitted this, but is it not loading? Do you not have it up?
I got it. Here.
What's going on? When you see it, you will twit bricks.
Haha.
And that
I
means
see
when
what
you
they
buy
did
buy
there.
the brick and then you see it in the studio, you'll be very excited. But also thanks to Matt3 and Zenkith, PFK99s, iMac AZ, Derek82, Mayo, everybody else who submitted stories to the subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com, and everybody who voted. You don't even have to submit stories if you don't have time. Just pop on there once a day and tell us, hey, I'm interested in that story. I want to see that. Vote it up. We appreciate everybody doing that. And thanks, everybody, for watching. I'll be out for the next couple of days. I'm going to be at Nerdtacular in Salt Lake City, hanging out with Scott Johnson and the Frog Pads folks. But Sarah and Ayaz and Jason will be keeping the ship floating and steaming ahead full force. I mean that. They're actually going to move the show to a ship. So definitely don't miss tomorrow's episode at twit.tv/TNT, or you can email us TNT@twit.tv in memoriam after the ship goes down, or call us 260-TNT-SHOW with navigation instructions that might be helpful. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.